Hi, I'm Mansi Vadke, Deputy Editor with ThePrint, and we have with us today Yuval Noah Harari, a renowned author who always puts a historical and philosophical lens of looking at things, and that always leaves us with a very unique perspective. We are here to talk about his new book, Nexus. And in fact, a small anecdote, I was just speaking to my friend a few days ago, about 3 or 4 days ago, and I told her that I would be interviewing you and I need to read this book somehow before the interview, and it's a really fat book. So she said, "Hey, why don't you just go to Chat GPT and ask it for a summary?" I said, "For this particular book, it would be doing a massive disservice." And that's the central theme of your book, that while AI is extremely helpful and there needs to be more investment in it, but there are a lot of threats that AI brings up with it. And threats that kind of they threaten to change humankind as we know it today.
Absolutely.
So could you elaborate a little bit on that before we dive into the nuances of the book?
Yeah, AI has enormous positive potential, but it's also a big threat. But before people rush to judge,
Hmm.
is it good, is it bad, the most important thing is simply to understand what is AI and what is the magnitude of the historical change that we are witnessing. And to put it very, very briefly, the one thing everybody should know about AI is that it is not a tool, it is an agent.
Right.
A tool is something that is in our hands
Right.
that gives us power to do more things. Like you have a knife in your hand, you can decide you can murder somebody, you can save their life in surgery if you're a doctor, you can cut salad for dinner. This is a tool. You decide what to do with it. The knife cannot start doing things by itself. AI is not a tool, it is an agent. It is something that can make decisions by itself and can even invent new ideas by itself. So, an AI knife, for instance, is something that can decide, do I want to cut salad or do I want to murder somebody? So we have, even today, AI weapons, autonomous weapons, which already are able to decide who to kill, who to bomb by themselves. And AI cannot just make decisions, it can also invent new ideas. So we already encountered that AIs are composing texts which are different from any existing text. They compose music, they create images and videos. The Nobel Prize in both chemistry and physics went this year to AI, to the development of AI, because AI also makes it possible to make new scientific discoveries. So again, it can be very good things, like new medicines, but also very dangerous things. But the most important thing is that it is no longer just human beings who are in control. For the first time in history, we have created something that, instead of making us more powerful, can actually take power away.
Right.
Even now, when you apply to a bank to get a loan, maybe it's not a human deciding whether to give you a loan or not, it's an AI.
Right. So basically, it's humans who are giving AI the agency
Yeah.
to do things. But as of now, we are probably being able to control in what way AI uses that agency. But that may not be the case going forward, is what you're trying to say.
Exactly. The AI revolution is just beginning.
Right.
It's been something like 10 years
Right.
since the beginning of the AI revolution, and the AIs of today are still very primitive. Like ChatGPT is still very, very primitive AI. The development of AI will continue for centuries, for thousands of years. And there'll be much more sophisticated AIs. And down the road, maybe in 10 years or 20 years or 50 years, the AIs might be more intelligent than us.
Humans.
And then they will escape our control, and our fate depends on them. You can think about it like an alien invasion of the planet. Let's say I tell you that there is a fleet of spaceships coming from another planet with very intelligent aliens on it, and it will be here in 20 years. And you don't know, maybe the aliens are nice. Maybe they will do good things for us. But everybody will be very afraid because we are losing control of the world to something else, to an alien. So AIs they are a type of alien intelligence. They don't come from another planet, of course. We create them on this planet, but they might escape our control because the defining characteristic of AI is the ability to learn and change by itself. Even the engineers that program the AI, they cannot know in advance and control how the AI will develop.
Right.
It's a little like when you have a child. So you educate the child to the best of your ability, but still, you cannot control everything the child will do in the future, because the whole point about a child, a human being, is that she or he can learn and change. So AI is like this child with one big difference, that the AI is not a human being. It's not even organic. It's not an animal. It functions according to completely different principles. And therefore, it's much harder for us to know. Even with children, it's difficult to know how to educate your child.
Right.
So they grow up to be a good person. How much more difficult it is to educate an alien that is completely different from a human being.
Right. Understood. And you have in your book compared the AI revolution to the industrial revolution, where just a handful of countries are at the forefront, and we saw what the consequences of that were at that time. What would the consequences of this AI revolution be, where only a handful of countries are actually pumping in the resources and are have advanced quite a bit as compared to the others in AI development?
This is one of the big dangers. Again, it's not one danger is that AI itself will become dangerous. But another danger is that even if it stays under human control, the AI revolution will create immense inequality between different countries or different people, like what happened in the Industrial Revolution in the 19th century, when people invented steam engines, trains, steamships, electricity. This was not bad technology. It had many useful purposes, but the problem was that only a few countries, they led the revolution, like Britain and France and later the United States and Japan. Most countries remained far behind. And then the few industrial powers, they conquered and dominated and exploited the whole world, like what the British had done in the Indian subcontinent. Such a small country, Britain, very far away, nevertheless managed to control hundreds of millions of people. Why? Because they had this sophisticated technology. The same thing can happen with AI. That just basically two countries are now leading the AI revolution. It's the United States and China. A few countries are also quite advanced, but the vast majority of countries, they are very far behind. They are not really part of this revolution. They use AI technology, which is produced by the Americans or the Chinese, but they cannot create their own AI technology. AI is much more powerful than steam engines or trains. So the danger is that, again, just a handful of countries will dominate and exploit the entire world. And, whether you look at the economy or whether you look at the military, the change will be immense. Like once you have fully autonomous weapons, AI weapons, all the armies of the world are obsolete. All the ships, all the airplanes, all the tanks that exist right now, maybe in 5 years, they are completely worthless. Because once you have, fleets of AI drones that can fly and shoot and make decisions by themselves, all the existing weapons are meaningless. Similarly, in the economy, what happens if you have AIs and robots that can replace people in more and more industries? From driving trucks to producing textiles to writing books. AIs can write books. There will be new jobs for humans. I don't think that all jobs will disappear.
Absolutely.
There will be new jobs. The problem is how to retrain the workforce. Like all jobs disappear. You don't need, say, truck drivers. New jobs emerge, but you need to retrain a textile worker or a truck driver for the new job.
Absolutely.
This costs money. So again, if you're a very rich country, like the United States, you can retrain your workforce and you will benefit. But if you're a poor country, you lose the existing jobs, you don't have money to retrain your workforce. What do you do?
And the disparity increases. So,
And the disparity increases,
right,
exactly.
right. So, why is it that certain countries are? I mean, you look at a few European countries, or even down south. But why is it that they are not ramping up their research in AI as much as US or China?
First of all, because they don't have enough resources.
Okay.
US and China are such big superpowers. They have a lot of resources. If you look at smaller countries, so I don't know, if you look at a country like Portugal, or you think about Thailand, or you think about Costa Rica, they are very small countries. They cannot have the resources to invest in AI. Their only chance is if they cooperate. A lot of poorer and smaller countries, their only chance if they cooperate together.
Pool their resources.
But at the present moment, what we see is that the world is disintegrating.
Right.
And every country, even the European Union, is now falling apart. Every country says, no, I only care about myself. So cooperation becomes more difficult. Now, the paradox is that the people who are kind of, these ultra-nationalist leaders and populist leaders, that they make cooperation more difficult, they say that we are for independence, we are for our country, this is why we don't want to cooperate with others. But actually, by making cooperation harder, they are ruining the independence of their country, because it means that their country will not be able to compete in the AI race. The only chance that smaller countries have is if they come together and cooperate, not if they separate and try each one to do its own thing.
And with the change in regime in the United States, what do you think the US's role in developing AI and focus areas would be like? And would this chasm further increase?
Yeah, I mean, with the new administration, there are two problems. First of all, this administration is completely against any regulation. So any hope of regulating the development of AI to invest more in safety, to make sure that it doesn't go in a dangerous direction, very unlikely that the new US administration will do something like that. Secondly, the new administration is very much against global agreements and global cooperation. It's America first. It's only about America. So in any group, it's very dangerous if the leader thinks only about himself and doesn't care about anybody else. So now humanity as a whole is in this situation that the leader of humanity, the strongest country in the world, the US, now says openly, I only care about myself. I don't care at all about humanity as a whole or about other countries. So I think that other countries should be very concerned with this situation. And again, because the US is so strong, Trump says, let's make America great again. But America already is great. Even under Biden, America is the biggest economy. It is the biggest military. It is leading the AI race. It's already so powerful. It will become even more powerful because of AI. So other countries should be concerned about it. And the only option is to band together in order to counterbalance the growing power of the United States. And if each country tries to do its own thing, we don't care about other, we don't want to cooperate. Every empire in history had the same principle: divide and rule. If you manage to divide people, you can rule them easily. This is what the British did when they came in the 19th century. So it's the same now. If all the countries just fight among themselves, it makes sure that nobody can really resist the power of the AI superpowers like the US and China.
And we've seen in the past that global cooperation is not impossible, because a massive crisis has always led to global cooperation.
Sometimes,
right.
Yes.
So are we waiting for a massive AI crisis for countries to actually band together? And
then it will be too late.
Yeah.
Once the crisis happens, it could be too late, like we saw with COVID. That it makes sense for countries to cooperate to build some kind of global healthcare system to protect against pandemics.
Right.
But if you wait until the pandemic arrives, like with COVID, then it's too late. Because then you don't have any of the infrastructure in place, and every country only tries to take care of itself. And we should prepare in advance to the danger instead of waiting for the danger to come. And at present, the world is going in the opposite direction.
Right.
The international tensions are only increasing. Maybe the most dangerous development is the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Because, there are many conflicts around the world, but this one is in a league of its own because it broke the biggest taboo of the world order.
Yeah.
For decades, the biggest taboo, what no country should do, is to invade another country and try to conquer and to annex its territory. Right. This was old-style imperialism. Right. This was happening for thousands of years. And in recent decades, this became the biggest taboo. And now this is exactly what the Russians are doing. They are trying to destroy Ukraine, and any territory that the Russian army conquers, the Russian state immediately annexes. This is imperialism. If this is not stopped, we will see more and more countries around the world doing the same thing. Venezuela could do it to Guyana, Iran could do it to the UAE, Ethiopia to Somalia, Israel to Lebanon, and then the complete collapse of the global order. And so at a time when we need more cooperation, we're actually seeing disintegration of the order.
Right. And going back to the United States a little bit, yesterday at the book launch, we were talking about information cocoons. And, increasingly what we've started living in silos where algorithms decide to give us more of what we are already reading or seeking. And you have associations like Trump, who heads the world's superpower, and Elon Musk, who owns the world's probably most popular information dissemination platform. Where this kind of an association is almost it's so powerful. Where will it lead us to?
The biggest danger is it leads to a situation when you can no longer correct your mistakes. Every organism, every animal is built on the principle of you make mistakes, everybody makes mistakes. To survive, you need to identify and correct your mistakes. Like a child learns to walk, tries a few steps, falls down, learns from the mistake, gets up again, try differently until you learn to walk. If you cannot correct your mistakes, you never learn to walk. It is the same on the level of a country. Democracy is all about a self-correcting mechanism. You give all power to one person, to one party, for say 4 years. Okay, try your policies. And after 4 years, the people get a chance to correct their mistakes. There is another election, and they can choose somebody else if this person did not do a good job. And even during the time when the person is in office or the party is in government, there are mechanisms to correct its mistakes. Like even if the president commits a crime, you can go to the court, and the court should be independent and stop the government. Similarly, you need free press in order to report the mistakes of the government. What happens if you give all the power to just one party or person, and they control not just the government, but also the media and also the courts? Then there is no longer any option of correcting mistakes. Because even if they make a big mistake, they control the media, so they hide the mistake or they blame somebody else. And even if there is, 4 years have passed, there is another elections, they control all the media, and they even control the election process. So even if they lose, they say, no, we won. We saw it in Venezuela, for instance, that Maduro lost the elections, but because he controls all the courts and the media and the army and even the election committee, he claims, no, I won. And you cannot, the people of Venezuela, they cannot correct the mistake that they did in the past of voting for that person. And you see the same thing in Russia. No matter how many mistakes Putin makes, there is no way for the Russian people to correct this mistake. The danger is the same thing will happen in the United States. That when too much power is concentrated in the hands of a few people, then no matter what mistakes these people do, because they control the media and the courts and they appoint their people to all the important positions, you're stuck with them.
Right. And where do you see India's role in all of this in global cooperation on AI, as well as how far has India come in the development and research on AI?
With regard to cooperation, India has a very important role to play. It's the most populous country in the world. It's becoming an economic and a cultural leader. And any major global cooperation on AI or anything else must have India as one of its leaders. But a leader has a responsibility not just for themselves, but also for others. So, for instance, with regard to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, I know that India and Russia are friends for a very long time. But India should use its influence, should use its leverage in order to assure that there is a just end to the Russian invasion. That yes, Russia has legitimate security concerns, and these should be addressed. But it should not be acceptable that a country just invades another country and conquers it. And as a long-term friend of Russia, India, I think, has a very important role to play here. Because Russia will not listen to US or to Europe, but Russia may listen when India says so. With regard to AI, and India is one of the countries which develops in information technology and computer technology, but still, by itself, it is not in a position to compete with the United States and China. Right. So ideally, India should cooperate with other countries which are afraid of being left behind, like the European Union, or like countries in South America, like Brazil. And if all these powers together cooperate, then there is a chance to have a more equitable and safe development of AI.
So basically, India, there's a good opportunity for India to take the lead in getting countries to pool their resources together, band together, and initiate some sort of cooperation and dialogue on this.
Exactly. Yeah. If it just tries to do something by itself, it doesn't have the resources to compete. But if it uses its leadership position to build a greater alliance of a lot of countries, then there is a chance.
Right. And yesterday, we were also, you were also talking about how AI poses the most threat to dictators and not democratic, governance, administration institutions. So what would an AI dictatorship look like?
One thing that's very dangerous about AI is that it makes it possible to create total surveillance regimes. Every dictator in history dreamt about following everybody all the time, to know what people think, to know what people do, to control them. But this was technically impossible. Even in the Soviet Union, if you have 200 million Soviet citizens, the government of the Soviet Union did not have 200 million KGB agents to follow every Soviet citizen 24 hours a day. Not possible. And also, even if you have so many agents, who is going to analyze all the information they collect? To create a surveillance system, it's not enough to collect information, you also need to analyze it. And they didn't have enough analysts. Now, it is possible, because in order to spy on people, to survey people, you don't need human agents. Much of what we do on our smartphones or computers. We buy things, we talk, we read books, and there are also cameras and microphones everywhere. So just using this technology, it's now possible to follow everybody all the time.
Right.
And then you don't need human analysts to analyze the information. AI can do it. So it is becoming possible to create a total surveillance regime where everybody is followed all the time. There is no privacy at all. And the government or the big corporations, they know us better than we know ourselves. Most of what I've done yesterday, last year, 10 years ago, I forgot. And sometimes even when I remember something, I remember incorrectly. We often lie even to ourselves about ourselves.
Yes.
this system, it will remember everything. Everything you've done a year ago, 10 years ago, every conversation, every book you read, it will remember everything. So if you have a situation when the government knows more about you than you know about yourself, you no longer have control of your life. They completely control you and they can manipulate you. And this is a danger that did not exist in the past because the technology was not there.
Right.
Now it is becoming a reality. And we actually see the development of these regimes in different parts of the world. In my country, in Israel, Israel is building such a total surveillance regime in the occupied Palestinian territories to follow all Palestinians all the time. China is doing it, Russia is doing it, Iran is doing it. Like in Iran, there are very strict laws, the hijab laws, that says that women must always wear the hijab when they go out in public. Now, previously, the Iranian regime had difficulty enforcing this law because they did not have enough police officers.
Right.
Like you can't put a police officer in every street
Absolutely.
in Iran. But now they don't need police officers, they have cameras and AI. So a woman goes, even drives in her own car without the hijab, a camera sees it, identifies who the woman is. It doesn't go to the courts, to a human judge. The AI immediately decides the punishment, like your car is confiscated, or you have such and such a fine, or whatever. And this is this is not science fiction. This is what is happening right now in places like Tehran or Isfahan, that you have an AI system to control millions of women that now they must obey these rules.
Somebody is watching us all the time and there's somebody who knows us better than ourselves. That sounds indeed very alarming. And we'll end on that note. Thank you so much for this fascinating conversation. I know that you have a very long day ahead of you.
Yeah, so maybe I'll just say one more thing.
Please.
This is not inevitable. I don't want people to kind of get the feeling that there is nothing we can do, AI dictatorship is coming. This is just a warning about dangerous potential. There is also very positive potential. We now need to make important decisions about this. And the reason I give this interview, the reason I wrote the book Nexus, is that more people around the world understand what is happening and they can join the debate and the conversation and make sure that we make good decisions.
Right decisions, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.